Okay, so I'm going to just kick off by saying, yeah, that obviously for the last 2 seasons, without having physical trade shows, you know, we attempted this really daunting task of trying to communicate what's out there in the industry, coming from mills and, you know, and supply chain, you know, like laundries, you know, and machinery experts and chemical companies, what's out there. And obviously sustainability is front and center of what everyone is talking about every season. And, you know, like we've discussed in our, you know, previous conversation, we're not experts, we're designers and trend experts, and we see fabrics and we want to put them together in like lovely wash stories and weave stories, and it's all exciting and visual, but there's so much more to fabric that goes way beyond our, you know, our learning. And so the process has been really interesting, but I can understand how designers feel, because it's beyond us. You know, we're not sustainability experts. We don't work at mills, and we're trying to communicate in a simple way to designers about what we're being communicated to. So we went to you, obviously, you know, we were introduced to you as an expert, and it was really interesting getting your opinion on certain pages in the directory. And obviously it opened a can of worms. Now, we would much rather open the can of worms and start dealing with the worms than keep the can of worms closed. But obviously we're in a situation where designers just don't have this time, and they don't have the resources, and sometimes they just don't, you know, they're creative people, they don't have the right kind of brain, the inquisitive brain to maybe understand some of the concepts of sustainability. So I just wondered what your advice would be for someone like us, or a designer in this crazy minefield that is greenwashing right now.
What is greenwashing right now? Well, it's very difficult to sell a product by itself, okay? Just the product by itself is, in most cases, not strong enough to convince the end consumers, to convince the customers, okay? So you need to surround it with other, you know, positive things. So it's not only the product itself. I like it. The color is nice. It's good. You know, the style, the waist down. You need to put other things around that make the product more attractive to the consumer. And one of these important things is about the environmental impact. I'm not going to use the word sustainability at all, okay? Because even the word sustainability should be banned, to be honest. It's something that doesn't mean anything, and it's confusing. And greenwashing is about confusion and lack of knowledge. So just moving on. So then when you have to sell something, and then you need to put nice messages around, then you explore what can you say about that particular product that can make it more attractive to the consumer. And when you enter into things related to environment or social, we are entering into a very sensitive type of topics. It's not easy to handle things on the environment or social or operational health and safety. So what happens is that let's say the brands, because the brands are the face of the industry to the consumers. The brands collect a series of messages, some information, to create a promotional campaign. And here, greenwashing is 2 things. One, first is a lack of knowledge of what you are claiming. And the other thing is, a lack of critical thinking. So if you have connections with suppliers that are promoting the moon, they say, listen, this is the moon, you need to have critical thinking. Don't trust just because, it's a good meal. A good people. I mean, you can trust, but it's much better to check, okay? You can always trust, that's no problem, but check. And especially when you are the face of those messages to the world, you have to be very careful with the words, with the numbers, with the basic messages that you are transmitting.
Mhm.
So greenwashing for me is a combination of many things. There are different type of things. So it's lack of knowledge, it's lack of critical thinking, and in some cases, unfortunately, it's lack of honesty.
Yeah, it's a spin.
Yeah. So it's also that you say, listen, if we don't say this, we will never sell the product. So just go ahead. And this is lack of honesty, and this is very sad. So
Yeah.
my belief is that lack of knowledge is something that can be corrected by education.
Yeah.
Lack of critical thinking, this is something that also, people can be trained on. Don't tell me, prove it.
Yeah.
But the honesty is something personal, okay? You have to
Yeah.
you have to handle it yourself.
That's your own work, isn't it? It's just like, and
Exactly.
that's the tricky thing, I guess, as individuals in the industry, we just have to use our own judgments, and that's just an intuition thing on whether somebody is hyperboling or telling the truth. Yeah, it's really difficult. But what would you? Okay, so I definitely agree. I think to me, where the process of the Denim directory, to me, it's about, like you say, it's just educating and questioning. The issue I think that we came across, that obviously every designer comes across, is, and this is the trouble with our industry, is the amount of resources and time that a person has, and hours in the day. This is the really tricky thing. If you're a designer out there and you have very little time, you may well be forced to make a decision just based on trust that mill or that supply chain expert is telling you, because you simply don't have the time. You don't have the luxury of time to do your own research. You have to trust. And I think that's where the issue, that's a major issue in the industry. I wouldn't pin that blame on brands. I think brands have the responsibility and need to check and make sure and communicate correctly. And I don't suppose they do a lot of the time. But as an individual designer just sitting at a desk, like, this is the trouble. They don't have the time, luxury to do their work in general, let alone, this. And I think this is where a lot of this stems from.
Well, yeah, but if you work like isolated from the rest of the industry, okay, this is not positive at all. Because fashion and denim is a very complex world, and there are so many steps, so many people involved on so many things going on. So if you're isolated with your computer, with your notebook, okay, that's not really the way to handle. I said you need to know a little, but more than getting a lot of information, just studying and trying to get an expert on that, what is important to me, to my view, is to know what are the right questions. No, you don't really need to be an expert, but if you know what questions, you need to ask, then that will make things much easier for you.
You get to the heart of the issue.
Exactly. Yeah. So I want to know about this. Okay, so if someone comes to you with fancy claims, oh, this is sustainable. Okay, you take note of all the things that you heard and that they are not clear for you. Okay, and then you prepare to ask questions.
Yeah.
So if someone is saying we can save 100% of water, you should know that 100% doesn't exist. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Same as zero. Zero is impossible.
Zero water, impossible. Yeah.
These are kind of thermodynamically impossible targets. Okay, so when someone comes to you, by the way, I see your cat behind you. That's great.
Oh, hey,
that's cool. Hey, Kitty.
He's soaking wet because it's raining outside.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So
he just came in the cat door and I was,
I'm sorry. I saw something moving behind you and I said, what is that? That was your cat. It's cute. It's lovely. Yeah, sure.
He's a sweet cat.
So you don't really need to know. You don't really need to learn about everything, but you really need to know what questions you should ask.
Yeah, I think that's a
And
brilliant answer. But what are those? How do we know? I mean, I do think, you know, what you did say. I think, you know, when you were saying about 100% water, I do think a lot when it comes to greenwashing and sustainability and all of that stuff. In a way, actually, I think a lot of people need to trust themselves a bit more, because I think when we are kind of sold, you say there's a marketing guy and he's like da, 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 and he's saying all of this great stuff, you know, you get this feeling here that you're like, and it's just like trusting your instinct to ask those extra questions and be like, that sounds too good to be true, you know.
exactly,
I guess
good point.
there's a bit of trusting yourself and your intuition, I guess.
Yes, Amy. I mean, something that sounds too good to be true, you have to be immediately kind of, okay, step back. Okay, so it's too good to be true. I take note. I want to ask. And you have a lot of people around you that can tell you that's probably not true. Or they can tell you, listen, you should ask to that person or that company about this and this and that. So you get more information. So no, something that sounds too good to be true is probably a lie.
Is it true?
So what is you know, on greenwashing that is actually initiated by designers. If you think about the position of designers are initiators of greenwashing up to a certain extent, because when you specify materials, when you specify I want organic here, or I want whatever other things here, or I want, so the materials that you use are important, because the moment that you define an article and the materials for the article is going to be moving through the supply chain. And in order to meet your requirements, the mills, the people, everybody will do whatever, because this is a very competitive market. And some people do whatever, but correctly. I mean, they say, listen, this is what Amy is asking. We should do it. Let's do it like that. But some of the people say, you know what? Amy will never know. Okay. So we can use this and tell her that is that. Okay. So it's not a big thing. So when you mention about trust, I mean, people trusting people, credibility is something that you don't buy. I mean, credibility is something that you earn. Credibility, well, you become credible not because I mean, you tell that you are credible, that listen, I am credible, or because my friend is telling that I am credible. No, it's something that you should earn. You should earn the you know, the credibility, because your experience, because your advice is based on scientific data. I mean, everything is about data. So when you have scientific means that it's not an opinion. When we refer to scientific data, is something that you have numbers, figures, reports from institutes that prove what you are claiming. Okay, so because otherwise, something that is not based on credible, scientifically proven facts is just an opinion. And an opinion has no value. We all have opinions, but listen, when we say that something is like this, you know, that the speed of light is 299.678 kilometers per second, this is scientifically proven. It's not an opinion. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's a fact. It can't be argued.
It's a fact. It's a fact. And it can be confirmed by testings. Okay. So listen, this lab is testing this, and this is the outcome. So then you have to have a connection with credible sources of information.
Exactly.
And people that, listen, in case of doubt, you can ask. Listen, the other day someone told me about this. What do you think? Maybe the person will say, I have no idea, but give me 1 week and I will find out. And it's okay. It's okay. The important thing is that you start with information that is absolutely supported by scientific facts. That is not a piece of paper or an email or a promise. Okay. Oh, no. No. It's something that is scientifically confirmed. This is what you should aim for.
Exactly. we've got a long way to go, but
yes, absolutely.
but yeah, hopefully we'll get there. Hopefully we'll get there. It's really, I think, you know, it's a really challenging time for designers, I think, you know.
Yes, very much.
And there's a lot of designers out there who are doing the very best they can, but there's so much muddiness and cloudiness in the industry. Yeah. At least I guess the bonus is it's being talked about and it's been recognized, and the need for improvement has been recognized at this point. It's just a shame that with every movement, with every trend, every movement, there are people who are genuinely in it for the right reasons, and then there are people who, and you can kind of tell as well, I think, in the industry, you can tell the mills or the supply chain experts or vendors. You can tell the ones that are jumping on something as opposed to what, like you say, the sort of scientific fact-based vendors who are genuinely pumped to be exploring this. And I think that would be, you know, I think as a designer, getting that sense and getting that feel. And again, you know, I think price point comes into it. A lot of designers have just got like, they sense it, they know it. They're like, oh, these guys seem to have the exact thing that we want and we can't afford it. And these guys are talking the talk, and how could they possibly, I guess that's another thing that's interesting, is like what is the price of a sustainable jean?
Oh my
God. Right, like what is the price of the most neutral and least damaging jean out there? And I think the problem is a lot of people's budget in this industry is probably a third or a quarter of that. And that's a whole nother ball game. And I don't know what we do about that at all.
Let's talk about electric or hybrid cars. Okay. So now hybrid is a high peak, and you know, it's a trend. We have to move to hybrid or fully electric cars. It's the best way. It's the best way, at least on this automotive. The cost of batteries, the big problem of an electric or a hybrid car are the batteries. The batteries are the big thing. And 15 years ago, the cost of batteries was unbearable. Was very, very, very high.
Yeah.
It's also a type of business that, you know, you have to consider how the batteries are made. Okay, you extract the metals, the alkaline metals, and everything, and you make it. Okay, but that's something a little bit for a further discussion. But okay, you as a customer, you want to buy a car. 15 years ago, it would have been kind of a big investment because the cost of the batteries was very high. Remember that in the car industry, the electric cars are very old. They are from the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century. And it was, you know, there was a time that combustion engines and electric were competing until the moment that the cost of the engines or the combustion engines went down, and then people moved to that.
And then that became the norm.
And the electric cars became, you know, dormant. But since then, the cost of batteries have reduced 98%. Why?
And is that because of demand?
Is because you distribute the fixed costs over more units. Yeah. So the more you need to produce, the lower are the basic costs. So if I need to make more batteries, my cost per battery goes down.
Exactly.
And then if the demand is higher for hybrid cars, I sell more batteries, is fine, because the more I produce, the lower are the basic costs. I mean, the fixed cost. So how to get to let's say a type of fashion that adopts better materials and, you know, new ways of dyeing, for example, and everything. We have to make sure that they are adopted, that they become a standard for the end consumers, because the moment that the number of units start multiplying, the costs come down automatically. So that thing about that, what you mentioned, sustainability, is expensive, is totally wrong. It's not true. It's not true. You need to see everything from a much wider overview.
Yeah. That's interesting. And it's very true. Yeah, you're right. And again, like you said about collaboration, I would love to see a time where brands are, uniting and ordering together and stuff. I mean, I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but like being able to, especially like with, man-made cellulosics at the moment, it's just, brands actually having to opt into it. And like, what if 5 brands opted in together? And, it would be that would be an awesome outcome. It's such a shame that I don't imagine that actually happening, but that would maybe.
I don't know. I'm not that pessimistic, Amy. I think the brands are already collaborating. Some brands of the same profile, they collaborate for good. I mean, listen, the market is free. We are competitors in the market, but we can try together to do things right. And if we do something right together, it's good for the people, and it's good for the brand. So it's nothing wrong with that. Then in the market, you can go with different styles, different colors, different whatever. But for the very basic thing, there is absolutely no reason why the brands should not. And they are, by the way, and they are collaborating, to make things better. There are some brands that they say, listen, we need to do something, and that's the right way to go. You cannot solve the problem, as you said. It's collaboration. You cannot stay alone, and you cannot be the El Zorro and with a sword and you defeat everybody. No. You need to work as a team.
Work together.
People. Work together.
That's a great takeaway. Awesome. Thanks, Miguel.
Okay, perfect. Thanks very much, Amy.